Hey folks, welcome back for another episode of Code Club. I really am glad that you're joining us here on Halloween afternoon if you're watching live. Otherwise, I'm glad that you're watching the recorded version of this. If this plot off to my side here looks familiar, that is because on Wednesday's live stream, I showed you how I would go about making this in R using ggplot2 and other tools from the Tidyverse. What I want to do in today's episode, though, is take what we started with on Wednesday and incorporate the critique that I made on Monday of this same visualization. So that is the game plan for today. I don't really have a end goal in mind, except to play with this a little bit. And I would love to get your insights as we go through today. So please, by all means, say hello over in the chat. Let me know who you are and where you're joining us from. If you have ideas for things that I should try or questions that you would like me to address and play with, I'm very happy to take that on for you. That's why I do live streams, in part, rather than recording things. Because when I record things, you don't get to talk to me and tell me what you're interested in. Of course, I haven't quite figured out how to get hosts on or guests on to talk to me live, orally. And so we'll have to settle for the chat for now. So would love it, like I said, if you chimed in over in the chat just to let me know you're here and that I'm not talking to the vapor out there in the internet world. So again, this is what we are starting with, and the code that I have over here in our studio. If you want to get any of the code that I'm developing today, at the bottom of the description for this video, you will see a link to a blog post where you can go about getting this code as well, okay? Great to see you, Mike. Thank you for joining. I'm sure it's much later in the day than normal for you tuning in. So let's go ahead and run all this code. One thing that I ended last live stream with, was that we had the Financial Times watermark in the bottom left corner, but my version was kind of pixelated. And so I figured out how to get it not to be pixelated. And that was to write out the RSV to a PNG with a high resolution width. So I put out as 2000 pixels and then read that in and then represented it in kind of a smaller format so it looked a bit more crisp. So let me show you what that looks like as I run through all of this code. And again, we're using RStudio here. And yeah, and let's see, there we go. All right, and let's go ahead and open up the logo. Oh, that's the logo. I want the $year PNG file. And so this is what the final version looked like that I generated. And so you can see this Financial Times is a bit more crisp if you recall the last episode. Let me show you what it actually would have looked like at the end of the last episode. So I didn't have that width 2000. So if I come back down and rerun this, actually, it doesn't look so bad, does it? Let's see. Let me try this again. All right. Yeah, I have to reload all this stuff. All right. And now it should look right. It just wasn't rerunning everything. So you can see this Financial Times is kind of foggy. It's a little bit blurry, right? And so again, by reading it in, or writing it out rather, to a 2000 pixel wide file, then we get something that obviously is going to be more crisp than what I was reading it as, right? So now you can see it's a much crisper Financial Times. All right, cool. All right, so if you watched Monday's episode, you know there were a few things on this plot that I was just disturbed, annoyed, I don't know, bothered by. And so I want to start with this plot and try to make this plot a little bit better. And then we'll think about other ways of plotting the data. And so one of the first things was that this went through September 18th. We are now at the end of October, right? October 31st. So we're about 6 weeks later. I would like to update this plot to go to the current day, okay? The other thing that we saw was that we weren't really sure how far back in time they went. And they have these funny numbers in the margin for 91 and 2013. It's like, what is that about? And so I think what we figured out was that 1991 was the first year of data that were included in the plot, okay? And so I'm getting this data from a CSV that I downloaded in the last episode from the Wall Street Journal. And let's see, we took, 1991 going forward. But there's data in there going back to 1986. So if I basically remove that year greater than, we can then see what this would look like, right? And so we see that this bottom line actually is 1986, okay? And so we added a few more lines in here. And actually, if I come over and look at the plotting window over here, and if I go back, this is what it looks like from 1991 forward, and this is what it looks like with 1986 forward, right? And so this line down here, I'm pretty sure we showed was 1986. And so this was relevant because their title, Dollar's Worst Year in Decades, well, I guess it depends on what decades means, right? Because if decades means 3 decades, well, okay, maybe. Although I think what we found was that there was a year pretty close here, like 2017 or so, right? And so this is a much worse year back in 1986. So I want to include all of the data that I have available to me. And so let's go ahead and do that. One of the other things that I think I have down here, right? This was the slice max. I forget what this was exactly. So this all dollar was all of the data. And so we can see it starts January 20th of 1986, right? And so what I'd like to do is go back to the first, because like this line that goes off to the bottom, I'm scaling it to January 20th, not January 2nd, right? So January 1st is a holiday, there's no trading. So January 2nd would be where it's starting from. So what I'd like to do is go back and get the data, see if we can get the data from, say, January 2nd to January 19th of 1986, okay? So let's do that, and then we'll have all of the data going back to 1986, which will be about 40 years worth of data. Cool. All right, so we've got people from Romania and Egypt joining in. Welcome. I know it's even later in the day for you all. What a way to start your weekend. So thanks for tuning in. So let's open up a browser, and I'm going to do a Google search, or actually let's go to Yahoo or finance.yahoo.com. And I already had this in my history, the US dollar index. And I think what we saw last time was this, right? And again, if we go to all, then this all goes back to what? At least like 1985, I see, right? I see like April 1985 there. So I know we can go back further. So let's go historical data. And this download with the padlock is telling me that if I want to download this, then I'm going to have to pay. And I love you all, but not that much. So I think we'll do some copying and pasting here. So let's go into the start date, and I'll do 2, and then we'll do 1986. And then we'll end at, let's do 1/20/1986. Done. And then that filters it. For some reason, it's not going to the 20th. So let's up that to 21. Someone has a bug in their code at Yahoo. So we now see that we go January 2nd to January 20th. I am going to go ahead and open up this CSV file in Excel. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do something better. So I'm going to copy this and paste it to make a copy of my raw data. So we always want to keep our raw data raw, right? So I will add to this appended, right? And so I'm taking historical prices.csv and I'm going to append data to it, right? And so that way I have the historical prices.csv file in case anything happens to that Wall Street Journal site and I can't go back and get it, or I forget where I got it from. I will have the original raw data. And so let me zoom in on this so you can see this a bit better. And scrolling to the end, you'll see January 20th, 1986. And what I'd like to do is confirm, got too many windows. All right, confirm that we're kind of ending or starting at the same point, right? So January 20th right here, January 20th right there, right? So the open, 124.87, high, 124.93, low, 124.52, 124.59, whatever, 124.60. So I think we're meshing the data pretty well, so I'm happy with that. And so what we need then is to copy all this data over, okay? So I'm gonna highlight it, copy it. When you do this, you never quite know what's gonna happen with the formatting. So we'll just have to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste it over here. I'm moving it over a column because what I'd like to do is do an Excel trick where I can highlight some columns, pull down to January 2nd there, right? And now we don't have all of these dates because why? Because there's some weekends, right? So we don't have the 19th or 18th. We have the 17th, and then the 11th and 12th were weekends, and the 4th and 5th were weekends. Okay, so again, I'm trying to match their time series with mine, so I can go back to the first day of trading in 1986. So I can get rid of these then, and then I can plop this up, and thankfully everything agrees. I can get rid of these 2 columns worth of data. And so now I have data going from January 2nd, 1986 to October 22nd, 2025, okay? And I suppose I could try to get the last 9 days worth of data, but I'm not gonna worry about that for right now. All right. So we now have our appended historical prices, and that way then that line for 1986 will be more robust because we're going to be scaling it to the opening value of the US dollar index on January 2nd rather than January 20th, okay? So I'll go ahead and save that, and then I need to come back to our studio, and wherever I read in my data, I had historicalprices.csv. Let's do appended. And now let's rerun all this and see what it looks like. And so it's not quite as bad as it was down here, right? But it's kind of bad, right? And we might be curious, like, what is this value down here? Because it might be nice to think about adding a 15% line, right? So again, we had all dollar slice max date by year, and then we were sorting, right? And so this was telling us so for September 18th at least, what was the relative change, right? And so we've got these extra columns in here. Maybe I should open that back up. And this is my appended. Okay, I'm gonna delete all the other columns because it seems to be reading them in. So I'll delete, save, it's saved as a CSV, right? And now let's come back to our studio. So as much as we like to bash Excel, it does have its uses, right? All right, there we go. And so now we have the relative change. It goes down to negative 14.8, right? And so maybe what we could do in our plot, where you are, is bring down a line going to negative 15. We have positive 15. For symmetry, maybe we could go up to positive 15, okay? All right. So, and great to see you, Hassan from WV, which I assume is West Virginia. Good to have you joining us. Thank you. And so the Y-lim, we go from negative 11.5 to NA. Let's make this NA as well. NA will have ggplot2 pick the lower and upper bound for us. And there we go. It's not putting in that negative 15 line. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the negative 15 line. Again, I took out whatever I had there, like negative 11.5. Let's do negative 15. And then our breaks will go from negative 15 to 15 by 5s. And there we go. Maybe we could add a little bit of padding below that negative 15 line to do what? We'll do like 16. All right. Okay, so that gets us a little bit of space. And so, like I said, this is going to September 18th, as this currently is. Why don't we have it go, what? So I have two thoughts. So thought one is to do it to today, or the last date that we have data for, right? The other thought would be to have the full year worth of data, and then we could put in the red line for this year just to kind of see where it's tracking over the full course of the year, okay? What do you think? Part of me thinks that we should keep it to today. Let's try it to today, and then we can come back, and feel free to put in the chat what you think I should do. Should I do it through today, or should I do it through the end of the year, okay? And again, we don't have all of the data for the rest of the year, obviously, but we do have the rest of the year worth of data for all the other years, right? So something to think about. And so what we could do is back in here, let's see, we set the date at September 18th, right? And this position, this date that I see here is kind of where we're putting those labels. So that's not what I want, but what I want then, what do I want? Here, right? So I looked at all the data less than or equal to, the September 18th. And so maybe what I could do to define, quote, today would be, what could we do? We could do through, so the fake date. So like today, if I use today, that's going to give me October 31st. But I saw in the data, right, if I look at all the dollar, well, if I do tail on all dollar, then that, well, yeah. All right, let's look at this. I've already filtered it, right? So this then goes through the 22nd. And so if I do today, well, we're not going to have today's data until like, I think like 2 hours from now when the market closes. So maybe we should do it through whatever data we have here, right? Or maybe we should go ahead and get the newer data, okay? So let's do that. Sorry, I'm just kind of talking out loud to you all and to myself. So we'll do library quant mod, right? And there's no pack. Oh, I forgot the N, quant mod. All right, and so that got us quant mod loaded. And it's giving me some messages I'm not going to worry about. And I deleted the code that I used with quant mod. And so I'm thinking, let's see, let's come back to, let's see, I think I accidentally closed those tabs. So let's go to Rifamonis, and I'm going to look at my previous video where I was looking at the S&P 500, right? And so I think I showed you all this last time, that I had my code in here using quant mod to get out the S&P data, right? And so we'll go ahead and do this. So get symbols GSPC. So I'll put that here. So if I do get symbols DXY, I think maybe I don't want that caret. All right. So we're missing a lot of data. So that's not going to do too much better for us. Maybe there's something I'm missing in here. Let's see. So we can do get symbols. Source is Yahoo. Symbol lookup is that. Maybe I need to use the symbol that Yahoo is using. So we'll do finance, yahoo.com, and we'll use this instead. So I'm going to copy this in. And that, oh, what did I do? Okay. That ticker behaved a lot better. This is giving me data now through yesterday, right? Cool. So let's then, let's see, how can we do this? We want to take the data that we're getting and we want to append the rest of the data, right? The data since the 22nd, which may have been when the Wall Street Journal updated, who knows? And so let's see. Like I said, I think this went through the 22nd. And so no, I don't want to do the arrange just yet. We'll get that. So again, the 22nd. And so I think I can do in here, get symbols, I can do from equals 2025, 1023. And yeah, so this goes from the 23rd up to yesterday, okay? And so then what we can do is we want to know the close, right? And so this is going to be open, high, low, close. And maybe I can go ahead and I want to get this to be a tibble, right? So we'll do as tibble. And we'll then do row names equals date. And so this should convert this data frame into a tibble where the row names are going to go into the date column. All right, and it's warning me this stuff that I'm not super worried about. I guess the what was the 26th? So this was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sorry, I'm going back in time. So this is Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. Yeah, so it's giving me NAs for Sunday, so I'm not worried about that. But we'll definitely go ahead and drop that. But what you'll see now is that my date column is of type character. And we talked about this last time that I can do mutate date equals YMD on date. And this then will convert that to a date. And so I'm getting this warning message. And I wonder if there's a way. So there's a warnings argument. So I can set that warnings to be false because, I don't know, I find warnings to be annoying if they're not really helpful, right? So I ran that warnings equals false. That goes away. Let's then go ahead and make sure that we do a drop NA as it's been pleading with us to do. So we'll do drop underscore NA. And then we see that that NA row went away. All right. So now what we've got is we've got recent, right? And now what we can do is that basically what we've got in recent should match, oh, it doesn't because we've got different columns. I was gonna say it should match what we have down here. So we need to change that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do select and, oh, those column names are such a bother. So we'll do date, and then we'll do, let's see, I'm gonna just copy all of these, right? And then we'll call this open equals that, high equals that, low equals that, and then close equals that. And so by using select like that, we can rename our columns. And so, let me show you what recent looks like. We now have date, open, high, low, close, okay? And this isn't super pretty, but whatever. It's pretty enough. All right, so now what I wanted to do was go ahead and take recent and join that in with everything else here, right? So maybe right in here, I could do bind rows with recent. Okay. And so if I run this, let's just run that updated part. I now see, well, I've bound those rows at the end, right? So let's go ahead and run it through arrange date. And again, that goes back to January 2nd. So let's do tail here. And we'll rerun that, and this then should end. Oh, that's not pretty. What did it do? Oh, Right. I'm surprised it didn't complain or yell at me, but I'm getting weird output, right? Because at this point, yeah, at this point it is, it's gotten the year, the fake date, this year, those types of things, right? So it has more columns than what I was giving it, okay? So if I want to use bind rows, I either need to move it up or I need to apply these same types of transformations to the data, right? And what I would prefer to do is to keep things tidy, to keep things not redundant, right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove this for now. Maybe I'll close this mutate statement off there. And then I will move my bind rows up here, okay? And so at this point then, okay, and then let's do tail. And we'll look at those several lines. This looks good. We don't have those extra columns. We don't have all those hideous NA values. And we see that things are going through yesterday, right? Okay, so now we can bring in the rest of the pipeline. We'll do mutate and kind of get these all tabbed properly. And that all looks good. And so then if we rerun this, looking at the tail, it is still not happy. Why isn't it happy? All right. So let's put our arrange up here, so everything's in the same order at least, and then we'll rerun that. Okay. I thought we had done this, but maybe not. Let me go ahead and put the tail on the next line. Get that out of the way. We've got some work to do here to debug what's going on. And if you see what's wrong, let me know. Okay, Mike, I see you saying full year. There's still time to do that. All right. So this then gets us open, high, low, close. And it's sorted. Let's do tail n equals 30. And of course, it's not showing us everything. But it's not a... Oh, I think I accidentally turned off that arrange. All right, there we go. And let's do print n equals inf. Okay, and so what I see now is that we've got NA values. And if I had to guess, those are coming in from my CSV file, but I did drop NA up here. Let's see, if we look at recent, it tells us that there's 6 rows and 5 columns. Oh, but I'm reading this in here. So let's look at the end of this, right? And that's where the NAs are. All right. So I could, probably the safest thing here would be to drop NA, and then we won't worry about this so much, and then those NAs go away. All right. So the problem with working in Excel is that when you then output it to like a CSV, then you don't know what all is getting added, right? If I go ahead and close that, and then I come back to my Finder, and I open, well, I can open this in RStudio, right? And so if I scroll down, what you see is what we had, right? There's six rows here, 6 lines that just had commas. And so if I delete those, then theoretically the problem would go away and I wouldn't need this drop NA, and there you go. All right, so this again is part of the reason why we try not to manipulate Excel files because all sorts of funky things can happen. All right, good. So now we're cooking, right? Let's go ahead then and assign this back to all dollar, and I'll get rid of that tail statement because we don't need that. And let's see, our fake date. Let's do fake date less than or equal to, well, let's do less than. So here we did 2024 918 rather than 2025 918, which was the year in question, right? And we did that because 2024 is a leap year. And so if we did 2025, then we would try to get like a February 29th. And what we saw actually was that for whatever reason, it turned that into March 1st of 2025. So what we could do would be like fake date today, and then we could do update, update today, year equals 2024. And maybe we'll do update today minus, nope, we'll do that, right. And so then what we should get here then would be October 30th of 2024. Right, well that's October 31st, because that is today. But then fake date would be less than that, which would have been yesterday, right? So now what happens if we look at all dollar and we look at, well, we've got the code down here at the bottom where we were looking at the maximum value or the maximum date by year, right? And then sorting by the relative change. And we see that now we're doing everything October 30th, and 1994, October 28th must have been a Friday, right? And then the 30th was a Sunday. So, all right. And so then we see 1986 was down -12. And now in this year, 2025, we're down about 8%, but that's like, I don't know, that's not down that far. At least kind of, again, it depends on what you mean by decades. If you go back 20 years, you certainly see years that were worse. But if you go back 8 years, you see a year that was pretty close, within a half percentage point. So that's hard to argue that we're like anomalous. So anyway, let's see what this looks like then for this year. And I think some stuff might break, and it does, right? So do you see what broke? And so what broke is like our label here, this 2025, the 20, I forget what that was, and the 1991 there, are now embedded in the plot. Also, my Financial Times moved up. So part of that is because we hard-coded the position, right? So like here, we hard-coded that position and the X position for those line segments, as well as this here, right? So what we could do instead would be like, so that data was through the 18th, right? And so this was 10 days later. So we could do like today plus 10. So let's try that for this text. So we'll do today plus 10, and that should get us 10 days from today, which is November 10th. And I don't care about that day, except that that's where it's going to put my text then, hopefully. And it didn't. And maybe that went out too far. So, although maybe I set my X limit. No, I didn't set my X limit. So if we do today plus 2. Don't see it. Let's try it today. Let's see. So before we had this, right? If I did 1028, oh, right. Do you see what I'm doing? Hey, Julian, thanks for grabbing. Yes, Mike, thank you. I am illustrating here the downfalls of hard coding, right? So if you're going to make the plot once, like they did, then hard code away, right? Put things precisely where you want them. if we're going to be updating this regularly. Like if I want to run this next year and see how things have changed, right? Then you need to be more dynamic, and you need to write the code to be more dynamic. Julian, thanks for joining. Great. I would also be interested, not just where you're from, but what you're doing. Like, are you a student? Are you a professor? Are you in like a real job? Let me know what you're doing. And also be interesting to know like what your background is. Are you a biologist? Are you interested in social sciences? Are you just interested in data? Just kind of get to know you all a little bit better. Okay, so what I was saying was that this was 2024, right? So again, we have to be in that 2024, not 2025 scale. And so I was putting in today, which is 2025, which would be far off the right side of the plot. Okay, so we can fix that. So we can do update, and we'll do today, and we will then do year equals 2024. Actually, I think I don't want the equal, I want the comma. And, oh, what am I doing? Nope, that's right. Oh, and I forgot a quote here. I'm seeing all this red. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Okay, we want a quote there. And let's see if that does it now. Expected integer actual closure. Let's see. So we have update. Let's see what this gives us. Just give us October 31st of 24. And it's upset because I must be using update wrong. Update today. Oh, it is year equal. I put comma. All right, now let's try that. All right, it's still unhappy with me. Why are you unhappy with me? Okay. Update today. I'm gonna copy and paste this down because I must be doing something that I don't see. Oh, right. So I put 2024 in quotes. It should be a number. I feel like I did that last time on Wednesday. There we go. The errors go away. And now we see our date right at today. So let's go ahead and add 9 days to that, which is really easy to do with LibreDate. I can do +9. And that puts it off in the right margin like we thought, right? And now we want to think about those segments, right? And so we're back down here. And again, I'm going to do it relative to today. And so I'm going to copy and paste because, yeah, so Command C, Command V are, if you don't know those keystrokes, you got to learn those keystrokes. All right. So again, I think this should be maybe -1 for the X starting position. And then the X ending position, I think, will be today +1. Okay. All right. And we'll do +1 there. And we'll go ahead and comment this out. And there we go. We've got our line segments. Cool. Let's see. So Mike's a retired science teacher, chemistry specialist. Awesome. Phil's from New Zealand. Amateur coder, had to learn R to create an automated industry cost formatting model. Awesome. Julian is a biologist in your 50th. Between bioinformatics and wet lab, cancer research, immunology. Was living in the US, now working in Moscow. Awesome. Thank you so much. Cool. And I'm a biologist. Well, I'm actually an engineer by training, but I'm in a biology department, a microbiology and immunology department. So, cool. All right. So we've got those labels there. And now as we like change the date, things will move, right? All right. So, that's one aspect. That's an update, right? And then we could also update the date. right? So let's think about how we could update the date to make this perhaps, again, a bit more automated. So if we look for the labs, we've got our September 18th here, right? And so we could do paste on this, right? And so this isn't going to change anything. But if I come back up here and remove the September 18th, I could put in here then, like if I did like today, this is going to look weird, but it's today's date, right? And so the question then is like, how do we format that, right? And great, Julian. And then Morale is a biostatistician working in clinical trials. Great. So I'd like to convert that into the month and the day, right? And so maybe there is a format option. So if I do liberdate format, I think I might have to break it apart. So if I did like month on today, that gets me 10, right? But that's not what I want. So if I do question mark month, I see label false, abbreviation equals true. So label, I want to be true. So true will display the month as a character string such as January. False will as a number. False will display the month as a true string label such as January. True will make an abbreviation. Okay, so if, so I want label false, abbreviation, label true, abbreviation false. All right, so let's come back up here and we will then do label equals true, ABBR equals false. And that gets us October. And now we want to add in the day. And then we'll do day today. And day of today should get us 31. So we want to subtract a day from that, right? So we'll get that in there. And that should then get us 30. And now running this, we get up to October 30th. Cool, huh? And so again, that was a very good point that like what I'm highlighting is the difference between what we might think of as like a more static data visualization and a more dynamic data visualization. And so I think for like reproducibility purposes, having this dynamic it's a different way of thinking about things for sure, right? And I think makes your code maybe a little bit more challenging to think about, but it's also, I don't know, it's cool to know that you can like come back and play with this later, right? So let's move that financial times down. And I think this is fine. Maybe we'll go down 5 to 29 here. We can go further. Let's do 32. That's great. Okay. Cool. So we've added the years, the data from the beginning of the series. We now have data out to October 30th, right? Great. Joining from Italy. Wonderful. And Mike had the idea of format date %M %D. I will, let's see, if we do format, let's do today, %M %D. M. Let's see, if we look at format, help, let's see, yeah, I don't think that's exactly what we want. If we do format date, no, Yeah, I think this is, we kind of want like these percent signs, and I always forget what we want. Maybe it's percent B. I don't know. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about this right now, but maybe it's capital B. Hey, there we go. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Good idea. Hey, DY Song from West Lafayette. That's not too far away. Welcome. Cool. Very good. All right, so let's... oh, that's... Hopefully you see what's wrong. That my years aren't at the right places. So I must have that hard-coded somewhere, because you can see the 2025 isn't at the end of my 2025 line. And so I made that back here where I was selecting the dollar. So maybe I need to just rerun everything again. Yeah, I needed to rerun everything to update that data frame. Okay, so that's in the right place. All right. So one of the other critiques that I had made was that like this, like 1991 and 2013 wasn't very useful, right? And so let's go ahead and get rid of those. I'm also not convinced that these tick marks are very useful. So I think I'm going to remove the tick marks. And yeah, let's remove these. Yeah, after all we did that, let's get rid of that. I think it cleans it up a bit. And then we'll also get rid of the 91 and the 2013. And where was that? That was back here, right? So I'll color it still by 2025. And so that works, right? So let's see. Let's think about the title a little bit. And this was a pretty declarative title. And maybe what I'll say instead is that the dollar's slide has stabilized, right? I don't know. The dollar slide has stabilized since, let's say May. Okay. And then maybe what we could do would be like percent change in the dollar US index for each year up to October 30th, right? So it'd be nice to indicate what years we have in here, right? So we could say for each year starting with 1987, it seems a little bit of a mouthful. Percent change for each year starting with 1987 up on yeah, something like that for each year. I don't know. I'm not going to wordsmith it too much, but hopefully you get the idea of what we're trying to do here. Something I noticed also is that by adding more time, whatever year this was a lot more erratic. And so there's a lot more space now between the subtitle and the plot. And I think I added that as a margin to the bottom of the subtitle. So let's maybe take this down to 10. And I think that cleans it up a bit, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think there's too much space down here below the caption. So I'm going to maybe remove some of the space above the caption. Maybe we'll take this up to 10. So that cleans that up. But of course, we lost our logo. Oh no, what do we do? And let's maybe make this minus 22. Minus 20? There we go. Maybe it was 22. Oh. Let's do 25. All right, 30. 29. Oh my gosh, this is annoying. There we go. Okay, good enough. All right. Cool. So that's great. And the image is a bit deceptive, right? What do you mean by deceptive, Julian? So the part that I think is deceptive is that January 1st is kind of a meaningless reference point, right? Um, so that's a thought. Yeah. So one thought would be to like color the lines by Republican or Democratic president for each year, so we could see some trends. We could do that. Um, One other thought would be to color the lines by year to see if like this year is out of the ordinary, right? So that was kind of like the idea of the original point. Like, we haven't seen a year like this in decades. Well, if that was the case, then we would expect all of the more recent time points to be above the zero line and all the others to be below the line. Okay. Um, yeah, so it's a percent change, Julian, right? Yeah, so that's like you could do it on absolute terms or you could do it on relative terms. And so, yeah, it is a bit, yeah. uh, the what it's starting from, I think, is relevant, right? It's like if this is like a dollar value of 20, that's very different than it's actually at like 100, right? Which is, I think, pretty flat. Let's try to color it by the year, okay? And so to see how that might look, I think it might look pretty garish, but we can try. So we can do color. Let's do year, and so that'll take the year and color the line by the year. And it's unhappy. Continuous values supplied to a discrete scale. Example values. So I wonder what all dollar looks like. It has a year column, and it's a double. And continuous to discrete scale. Oh, right. Because I used Scale Color Manual. Right? So let's go ahead and turn this off for just right now. Those are all blue, which is not right. Let's see. I'm obviously like refactoring code, and so things look a little bit odd, right? So we have color being on year. So that should be changing. Maybe we could do like scale color continuous, and we'll do let's see, what are the arguments to this thing? Yeah, it's not helpful. Let's look at the help. And let me remove my face. And so scale color continuous. Let's look at some of the examples. So gradient is the default type. And we can see the palette. Yeah. Scale color gradient is what I want. Right. Gradient, not continuous. And I think what we can then add would be low to be something, and high to be that red color. And so the red is this. And then, yeah, we'll use this as our low color. Okay. And it's still not, it's using the red. And I think that might be because, right, because it's using the aesthetic that it's mapping is the year, And it'd be good to have the year scale, I think, instead, right? So this is going to be a bit of a hack, given all the work I've just done to make this adaptable. But if I do like year minus 1986 divided by so that would, like, this year then would be 39, but I want that then to be yeah, that's what I want to scale it by, right? So I want this year to be 1. So then we'll do 2025 minus 19, or let's do year on today minus 1986. There we go. All right. So now what we have are the years scaled by, the lines are scaled by the year, right? With like 1986, which is this line down here, being gray, and 2025 being this year, right? So that's kind of cool. I don't think it tells us anything though, right? Yeah, like I think if, like I said, like if all of the years post 2000 were above the horizontal line, and then everything below was gray, except for 2025, wow, like that'd be shocking. But obviously that's not what we see. So, all right. Let me see what you all are saying. So Mike says the finance industry loves using discrete time periods. Yeah, to kind of to bin things and make it simple. So Phil joining. Yeah, so he's asking about some interactive visualizations. I don't do a lot of those. In the past, I've done some stuff with Plotly in these videos. The honest truth is that whenever I make a video with Plotly, nobody watches them. And so I'm always a bit gun shy to make a Plotly based video. But you should know that there is a R package for working with Plotly using ggplot2. And it kind of escapes me right now how to do that. Like it's like, so it's not something I do a lot with my own work, but I won't get into today, but would encourage you to play with that on your own if that's something you're interested in. So, but thanks for asking that question. G giraffe to highlight just one line. Yeah, and that's also another thing. So it's like, I know how to highlight things like I highlighted here, right, where I do something like this year. I need to go back and learn GG giraffe. So I'm going to turn this back to the way we had it. That was a fun experiment. I had fun, at least. So we used scale color gradient, and then we had to scale the year to vary between 0 and 1. And then that worked. And so, yeah. All right. Let's see. There we are. That's what we had. So one of the other critiques I had was that we don't really have a lot of context for what these years represent, right? Or what these lines represent. And so it might be nice to know, like, what's this bottom line? What's this upper line, right? And so, so that would be one thing we could do. Another option would be to say, let's take the last 4 years of lines and color those, right? So that actually might be interesting, right? Like, I think what they're saying is that, like, this year is different, right, than the other years. So we're not gonna have time to do all the things, and I want to try a couple of different visualization approaches before I move on from this. But yeah, let's go ahead and add, or here's what we'll do. Like, they had these lines or the marks for 91 and 2013, I think. It's like, who cares about those years? There's a couple years that we might be interested in, right? So let's think about, let's see, it was right here, right? So that's this year. We might also think about like 2020, which is the year of the beginning of the pandemic. We might think about like 2009, which was like the Great Recession. Actually, maybe it was 2008. So I'll go ahead and put like a couple of these years in, and then we'll see what things look like. And then let's do 2001 and 2002. So obviously we had the terrorist attack in New York City and Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania, September 11th of 2001. And so let's see what those look like. So by adding those 5 years to this statement, I should get those years to appear in the right-hand margin, and I should also get those lines to be red. And, well, I didn't get them to be red, but I did get them labeled in the right-hand side, right? And I think that is because this year is colored red, okay? So, actually, you know what? Maybe what we could do is make these other years light red, right? But I think we can also just see right now, like 2020 is up here. I guess we don't totally know what's happening to the line. So let's go ahead and color the lines, because that would help us to see, right? And so then let's go ahead and grab these. And then where I do this year, where do I define this year? That was back up here in the AES. Where do I define it though? Right here, right? Let's see, how would I do this? So this year, I could say like notable year. Okay, so notable year, and then I could do like case when. So if this year is today, you know, if the date is from this year, then I will do definitely, and then I'll do year percent in these years, and I need another parenthesis. Then I'll do like kinda, and then I'll do true, tilde, nope. Okay, and am I missing a parenthesis? Yes. Okay, so now what we have are these notable years, and I think it's gonna complain. Yeah, because this year's not found. Okay, this year, so we'll do notable year. All right, I've got another this year in here. So we'll do notable year here. Yeah, and then my scale color manual here is wrong. So I have nope, kinda, and definitely. And then maybe for kinda, we could do pink, something like that. And I feel like I'm missing a parenthesis. I don't think so, though. Oh, I forgot. No. Huh. I'm probably missing a quote somewhere. Values, breaks. Oh, I didn't have an open quote right there. You're probably telling me this. All right. Cool. So there we see the other years. So like, yeah, so like, I think this line right behind the 2025 is 2002. But that really follows actually 2025 pretty closely. And so, I don't know. I don't see anything that's like obvious trends in this year, right? So, yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and, again, these are experiments that I'm trying just to see, like, can we see other bad years? If I were to say, like, when would have been a bad year? Like the recession, I would think that would have been, the Great Recession would have been a bad year for the dollar. But then you might think, well, if the whole world was in a recession, then maybe the dollar is not going to be doing any worse than anything else. Or if there's a pandemic, then that's going to affect the U.S.'s ability to trade. But if everybody's got a pandemic, then maybe it doesn't matter, right? Or maybe none of these things really matter, and it's other factors that we just can't control, right? I think this 1987, 86 was that there were big trade agreements going on that really changed the value of the dollar. So, all right. Well, that was fun. I'm going to maybe go ahead and put these back to kind of the dichotomous this year or not. And I'm not totally swayed by the need to call out any other years. And I've got to rerun the generation of the data to get this year in. All right, there we go. We're back. All right. Mike asked the question about, or was interested in seeing the full year worth of data. So let's go ahead and add the full year data, okay? And then we'll pivot to maybe trying something else. So I did a filter back here for everything before today, right? Right. So if I get rid of this, where'd you go? Then we should get the full year's data for all the other years, but not ours. Okay. There we go. We've got the full year's data, but ours is sitting in the middle of the plot. And so a couple things we might think about doing here would be to remove the 2025, and I would put some indication of 2025 in the title. And then I would want to fix the x-axis, right? So it's going every 3 months, but maybe it could go every 2 months. Okay. And so I think what we could do would be scale x date. And then there's, you can define breaks. So we can do date breaks. And then I think we could do 2 months. I think that works. So it'll go every 2 months. Nope, it was unhappy with that. What was the error? Invalid specification of breaks. Okay, so let's look at scale x date. And so date breaks. And so what do we learn about date breaks? So date breaks, a string given, so I did 2 months, and I think what I wanted was 2 space months. Okay, so let's give that a shot. There we go, the error went away. And, well, we get it, but the formatting isn't what we might want, right? And so, and I think we would probably, we would like to have a January 1st out here, right? So let's go back to the help there. And I want to change the label, right? I think we already saw that kind of. So if we come back up to scale x date, and then we do label equals % capital B for writing it out. Nope. Let's see. Let's come back to the help and labels. An expression, a function. Let's see. Looking for the help, right? So date labels. I think I did date label. Or I did label. Label. We want date label. Date labels. So we got B. I think I clearly screwed that up. I put B. I want %B. And they had, I think, the abbreviation now that I think about it. So we'll go ahead and put in the lowercase b. That's cool. And I think it would be good to have January on the far right side. Let's see, y'all are saying something. Yeah, so like the decrease in the dollar, probably a product of something starting at the beginning of the year. And so like I think the hypothesis is that Trump was inaugurated right about here, right? So right on January 20th. And so then the tariffs started in April. So right about here, right? So I think kind of the America First type policies started, I think, early in his administration, and then April was when it was like so-called Liberation Day, and then things like crashed. So I think that's probably the sense of what happened. But yeah. All right, so let's see if we can get a January on the far right end. And to do that, I think we need to change the limits, right? And so the limit on the scale X date would be like limits equals NA to 2025 0101. I think it's going to complain about that as being a string. Yeah, it wants that to be a date. So we'll do YMD on that. No, it didn't do it. All right. And I think it's probably a date limit. Let's look. Date label, labels, date breaks. Where are the limits? Limits. Numeric vector of length 2. I would think that would work. Let's see, are there examples down here? So limits. That's what I'm doing. As date. So now it's saying I've got it. Let's see. I think I'm getting some weird output here, so I'm not sure what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, I must have forgotten a line break somewhere in here. Let me put these back here. So when I do like Command Enter, it's only running the one line, and it's telling me there's an unexpected comma in date breaks 2 months. I have a plus rather than a comma. Where? Oh, right here. I'm missing a closing parentheses. Is that it? Okay, let's try this now that we've got a fresh prompt. Okay, now we're back to at least having that error. If I make this YMD, huh? I'm not sure what I'm doing. But that is odd. Oh, I know why. Is that why? Well, I'm doing 2025-0101. So the limit, yeah, like, so the end of the year on the x-axis would be 12/31/24. But this should be, I don't know why the limits are having a problem. So that works. Not really sure what's going on with that. That's, I don't know. If you see something, let me know. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and remove that text. And so that was a geom text here. So that gets rid of that text. And we'll say the dollars slide in 2025 has stabilized since May. And I'll say maybe the dollar slide since the beginning. Okay. And so then I'll put 2025 in red. And so to do that, we're going to use ggtext. So we'll do library ggtext. And that will allow us to put some CSS styling in and to use markdown. So we have plot title is using element text. So I could do element markdown. We could run this. Nothing's really changed. And so we'll make that 2025 then red. And so we'll do span, and we'll do style equals color. Actually, I need to make it or I'll do I'll back out of it. So we'll do color colon something. And I want to match the hex color that we had for the red. And we need to close out the span. I always forget which way the thing goes. I think it's a backslash. And so the red I want is this. And we'll plop that in here. And we'll find out pretty quickly if I've got the right direction. Yeah, it's a /, not a backslash. I should have known. That kind of shows you how much HTML, CSS I write. Right, and so now we see, since the beginning of 2025 has stabilized. Maybe I'll make the beginning of 2025 red. So to do that, I can grab this open anchor and put it there. There we go. We've got that red. And maybe I'll go ahead and make it bolded as well so it kind of pops. And so we'll do 2 stars. And that's marked down for bold. I don't think it bolded it, but that's okay. Let me take that out. All right, so maybe I'll just say has stabilized. I don't need the since May. All right. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna end this one here. I want to take the rest of the time, so maybe like the next half hour or so, to try a couple other types of visualizations of this data, okay? And so I get that the year-to-date change probably isn't super relevant, right? And I have some ideas for things to try. And you know what, maybe the one thing that would be most relevant, don't think I can finish it in this time, would maybe be to do the percent change off of Inauguration Day. Okay, and so we could take the last few presidents and plot that. So I'm going to grab some of this stuff. I'm going to make a new R script. We'll do library tidyverse. And we need our data. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this stuff for getting the percent change. Okay. So this then gets us all dollar. Okay. And we're going to need like inauguration day. And we will then do, let's see, we'll do a tribble, or maybe we'll do, let's do tibble, and we'll do president, and we'll go back to Bush, Clinton, Bush, his son, Obama, and then Trump 1, and then it's a P, and maybe this should be GW Bush, GHW Bush, and then Trump 1, Biden, Trump 2. Okay, and then we'll do what? Party. We'll do Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. Okay. And then we need the year. So the year was 1989, 1993, 2001 for HW, and then Obama was 2009, and then 2017 for the start of Trump 1, 2021 for the start of Biden, and 2025 for the start of Trump. And then, yeah, yep. And so then we have Inauguration Day is this tibble. And so then we could do like, what? We could do Inauguration Day would be, it needs to be a mutate, right? Mutate Inauguration Day. And we will then do, what will we do? It's going to be January 20th. Okay. And so we'll do YMD, and we'll do, I'm going to do paste. Yeah, paste. And we'll do year 01. Maybe we'll do paste 0. Paste 0, 0120. And I'm forgetting something. Let's see, like a closing parentheses. There we go. And so then Inauguration Day is that. Maybe I'll just call this presidential data. Okay. And so now we have the president, the party, the year, the Inauguration Day, right? So I could say like, how many days has it been since inauguration? And let's go out that far since the inauguration. We could also go back that many days from the inauguration, right? And so we'll do like days since inauguration. And I'll do today minus YMD 2025 01 20. Right? And so it has been 284 days since the inauguration. Okay. And so I could do what? I could do post inauguration as inauguration day, or I could do an update on that, right? No, let's do YMD what? Like I'm worried that we're gonna. So I'm trying to pick a date past the inauguration, but my fear is that like today's the 30th, or yesterday's like the 30th, right, where I have data, and if I then go back to say like 1989, that might have been on a Saturday or Sunday, and so that's not going to work, right? And so I need to think of a way to make that work. And the only thing I can think would be to say, let's see what happens. So let's do YMD on, paste, or no, let's do update. Update, what? Today -1, year equals year. And then if we look at presidential data, yeah, we've got 1030 for all those other, and then we could also do pre-inauguration. Equals what? It's going to be inauguration day minus days since inauguration. And so then what do we get? Presidential data. Okay, so then that is not correct. So inauguration day was, is that right? Would it be April 11th? Yeah, that's like 9 months. That makes sense. Okay. And so now what we want to do is a join on our all dollar data, I think. Right? So and I'm thinking actually like I want maybe not a join, but I want to filter for these different things, right? I'm starting to wonder if I bit off more than I could chew. So if I take the data was all dollar, well, let's think. If we've got all dollar and this, I want to use this and this as the starting points of the data. And I'm not sure what to do. Oh, I did not practice this one. So all dollar has this. And I think like I could do like, give me the dates before this and after this. And so I think what I want to do actually is like a nested data frame, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take off this assignment variable. And what I want to do is yeah, just look at the same number of days from inauguration for each presidency. Yeah, so I think like if I do, I'm going to try to like start simple. So if I do like filter GW president equals GW Bush, we get that, right? And so what I could see doing then would be like, well, I really want to do a map, I think is what I want to do. So I'll do a map to create a new column, which will be, I will call DXY data. And I will then do, this is going to be, or actually, sorry, I need to do mutate DXY data. That's going to equal a map. And the, if I'll do map 2. And so that's going to be pre-inauguration, post-inauguration. And so that's going to be X and Y that I'm feeding in. And I will then do filter on all dollar. So we're going to filter all dollar. And we're going to do date greater than pre-inauguration and date less than post-inauguration. And it occurs to me that I'm subtracting 1 and I'm going to use less than. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that -1. And so I think I need a tilde here. Oh, it's unhappy. There are 7 warnings. Oh, right. So this should be .x and this should be .y. Hey, what do you know? That worked. Okay, let me just tell you what I did. So I ran this and I got this warning message, or this, 7 warnings. It's very unhappy. And I'm using pre-inauguration as if it's like this column coming through the pipeline, but really it's this value and this value in each row. So I'm going over each row in this data frame, right? So if I take this data frame, right, I'm going to use map, and I'm going to iterate over each row. And for each row, I'm going to take this value, this value and this value, and I'm going to feed that in to filter. But the arguments here, this is .x, this is .y. So instead of pre-inauguration, I need to use .x. Instead of post-inauguration, I need to do .y. Then what I see is that I've got all this, but then I've got one more variable, DXY data, not shown. So let me go ahead and do a select minus pre-inauguration minus pre-inauguration. And so now you'll see that DXY is a tibble, right? So now let's just kind of exploring what's going on here. We'll do presidency equals, filter presidency equals GW Bush. President. All right. And then I could do like on nest DXY data. Oh, and it's unhappy because because I have year in there also. So let's go ahead and remove the year. There we go. And so now what we see is that we have the president, the party, the inauguration day, post-inauguration, the date, and then the open and high, as well as low, close, year, and these other variables, right? So obviously then, if I remove this filter, I get that data for all the presidents. And that's pretty cool. Let's feed this into ggplot. AS, X equals, we're going to use the fake date. The Y, let's use the rel change for now. And then, what? Let's do color equals party, group equals president, and then geom line. And I need to do a gg save, and let's just do it. Gg save, presidential $.png, width equals 6, height equals 4 sounds fine. And then we will go ahead and open up presidential dollar. Oh my goodness. That is a hot mess. And I'm not sure what's going on. So let's go back and just do one president for now. So let's do filter president equals, well, let's do Trump 2, because that's what we're in. And so so the weird thing is that like the I think our fake date is not working. I think if we did date, that would be better. Right? And so, oh, this is a pain. Maybe we should do it by the close rather than the relative, because the relative would have to be relative to, well, we could do it relative to the inauguration day. Let's do it based on absolute. All right, so let's do it based on close. There we go. Like that's the close, and we could imagine having a line for Trump, for the inauguration, right? So if I remove this filter, then the problem is that we get plus or minus for each party, or for each president, right? I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I think this is kind of turning into a bit of a mess. And so I think the challenge is that I'm using a fake date where I'm setting that to be based on 2024. And if I wanted to go back further, then I would need like 2023 and 2024, right? And so let's see, how would we, let's go ahead and put this back to fake date. Okay. And we saw that that's that mess. And I think that it's really thick in the middle and going back and forth because of that fake date being, everything being 2024. And so here I did fake date, update year equals 2024. So maybe what I could do would be like, if date greater than, let's do y day date greater than 20, then we'll do that. Or let's put this on separate lines to see it easier. So it's after the 20th, then we'll make it 24. Otherwise, update date year equals 2023. And need that parenthesis. Okay. So if it's after the 20th day of the year, then it's going to be 2024 as the fake year. If it's before, then it's going to be 2023. Nope. Oh, bother. If it's after... I think it's the offset date. Day since inauguration. Right? Because if it's then like, if it's January 3rd, then it's going to make that 2023 rather than, I want December to be 2023, right? So I think if days since inauguration, or actually if I do Y day on today, right? So if, let's see, if Y day on today, what? Oh, I think I'm confusing myself. So so today should be 2024, but I don't know. I'm getting too tired to be thinking about this, and you all are probably annoyed thinking about what I'm trying to do here. But what I'm trying to do would be to get like December 31st to be 2023, right? And so yeah, that's what we can do. If Y day on date is greater than Y day today, yeah. So if the year of the day is ahead of today, right? So like December 31st is Y day 365, whereas today, maybe so it was like 270, right? So in that case, then the year should be 2023. Otherwise, it should be 2024. I think that's right. And I'm missing something. All right. Let's see. What are you telling me? Unexpected comma and fake date. Oh, I've got a... All right. Let's see. Fake date. Mutate. I'm not sure where I'm forgetting a parenthesis somewhere. So this is, if this is true, then that, otherwise that. Oh, sorry. It's not if else. There we go. And kind of kick the problem down the road. Yeah, if else instead of if, yeah. And so that's working. But I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. So if the Y day of the date is greater than today, then we want to update the date for fake date to be 2023. Otherwise, it's going to be 2024. Right, so like, let's see, if we say date is YMD of, say, 2024, let me do 2020, 12, 20, and then I ran this on it. Oh, I forgot a parenthesis. Then that comes out as 2023. So that's right. But if the date, so we're having weirdness in like June, right? So let's try June 20th, which is a great day. It's my birthday. All right. Then that comes up as 2024. And yeah. I wonder if like it's out of order, but Geom Line should order things for me. I don't know. But let's see. I'll give this another 5 or 10 minutes. I really appreciate your all's patience in watching this with me. I'm sure someone is screaming at the screen saying, Pat, what are you doing? Do this. And maybe this is, I'm like I said, I'm doing this live stream in part because I want to see if people tune in on a Friday afternoon. But then I also want to try to kind of incorporate some of the critiques. So let's see. Mike says, I don't understand the pre-inauguration. Can you not just do from 20 January to October 31st each year with an inauguration? Yes. And what I'm trying to do with pre-inauguration is to go back an equal amount of time. And so maybe what I should do is try to simplify things a little bit. And let's do from inauguration day to post-inauguration, okay? And so instead of pre-inauguration, we'll do inauguration day. And then we'll go ahead, select pre-inauguration, pre-inauguration. Not sure what I was doing here. Let's see what this looks like. Nope. I must have misspelled something. All right, let's come back and rerun and see where the error shows up. So that works fine. So whenever I get an error like this that I don't know where it's yelling, I like to add an extra line. So it's saying here with that select, it doesn't know what pre-inauguration is, which is fair. Oh, because I haven't defined it. So let's get rid of that. And now let's come back. That works. Okay, now we can run it. And there we go. So this is from inauguration day going forward. Okay. That's interesting, actually. So for like our last 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, last 7 presidencies, the Republicans in the first however many days of their administrations have had a higher dollar index than the Democrats. And the difference then is the difference is Trump at like the last half of the, like kind of coming down into the Democrats. And so you're probably wondering who those are. And I am too. So maybe what we could do then would be to do, let's do color by president. And show what we see. Again, like this purple one actually is Trump won. Yeah, so this purple one is Trump won. This is where we are right now, which is pretty much where G-Dub Bush was. The blue here is Obama, which, interesting. Yeah. So, I think kind of looking at like the broader trends that we saw by picking some of those years kind of makes me think that some of these things probably can't be measured immediately like this. And it's far more complicated than I could probably do it justice here. But this is interesting to think about the role of, the first few 100 days, 300 days of a presidency on the value of the dollar. And this is showing it in absolute terms. And that's actually, I think, helpful. I think it was Julian that was raising the point that like looking at things relative, especially relative to like the first of the year, it's kind of meaningless. I was trying to get pre-inauguration to see if like there had been a change in administration from like Trump to Biden. Could you see that change, right? So like Biden is this reddish color here, right? And so like he took over when it was like at 90. And so Trump was the one that got it to 90 from this purple line, right? So he kind of brought it down to 90. So it was a bit of a weaker dollar that Biden inherited. And then, I don't know. Yeah, Biden inherited for his 4 years. And over his 4 years, he raised it up or whatever. It went up. I don't know that he raised it up, but it went up, right? Shouldn't all the lines start at the same point at 100? No. So this is what the actual value of the US dollar index was at the start of the administration. And so if you think back to this page and we look at the chart, let's see. Come on, how do I get... Let's see. Let's look at 5 years. So this dashed line is, I guess, where we are today, but that's basically at 100, right? And so you can see it fluctuates wildly, or not wildly, it fluctuates as we saw in one of those earlier plots. And so it's not pegged to 100. What we were looking at in the Financial Times plot, the original plot that we made, was doing things relative to 0, right? Which we could do. Yeah, so we could do that. How would we do that? Let me think about that here quick. So let's see, if we break it here, then this is each president. So we could group by president, and then what? Yeah, so we could group by president and then do it relative to the first date, right? Okay, so in here then we could do mutate rel change equals close divided by first open, and then we could do dot by equals president. And so then that gets us, well, it hides what we want. So let's go ahead and do a select on what we want for the plot so we can see everything more easily. And so we can do a select president, party, date, and we want rel change, fake date, so that gets us that, but that seems weird. Like, why would that be 0.996 and not? Oh, that's why. So we need to do relative change. So we want to do first open minus close, or I think we want to do close minus first open. And there we go. That's basically 0, right? And then we could feed this in. Oh, and we want this to be rel change. And there we go. That's the relative change, right? And so here we see, I guess, like this purple is Trump 1, this is Trump 2, the blue is Obama, right? So this is like Trump and Obama down here, and then the others up here. I don't know what you take away from that, but it is what it is. All right. Well, it's been 2 hours. I'm going to call it there. I have to go to some Halloween party with my family. And thanks again for ending your week with me on this live stream. I hope you learned a little bit. I guess I'm still experimenting with this format a little bit of doing these live streams, but I really do appreciate you all tuning in and kind of seeing what we're doing. I'll go ahead and maybe post this code at some point over the weekend. I just kind of did a bunch of noodling, it seems. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see in these live streams. I've really enjoyed seeing people get something out of these live streams. But I want to maximize the utility to you all. Because I can make plots all day of whatever I think is interesting. But if it's not interesting to you all, then what's the point? So anyway, let me know what you think. Tell your friends about what we're doing here on Code Club. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday for another video that will be a critique video of a plot that we found out in the